Welcome to the Chapter 14 lecture about the oligopoly market structure. An oligopoly is a market structure in which only a few sellers offer similar or identical products. Firms in oligopoly behave strategically because one firm's decisions about price or quantity can affect other firms and cause them to react. A firm will consider these reactions when making decisions. This market is different compared to perfect competition and monopoly when it comes to profit maximization. With oligopoly, we will study game theory. Game theory is the study of how people behave in strategic situations. To better understand the behavior of an oligopoly, we will start with an oligopoly with just two firms, a duopoly. Let's consider a cell phone duopoly in Smalltown. Smalltown has 140 residents. The good is cell phone service with unlimited anytime minutes and a free phone. Smalltown's demand schedule can be seen on the left side of the slide. One column showing the various prices starting at $0 increasing to $45, quantity demanded starting at 140 and decreasing to 50. The two firms are T-Mobile and Verizon, which make a duopoly. Both firms have the same fixed costs and marginal costs. There are 0 fixed costs and marginal cost is $10. You can easily calculate revenue by multiplying price and quantity. Cost data is given, then you can calculate profit. Now is a great time to pause the lecture and check that you can fill in the table on your own. Let's first consider the competitive outcome. In the long run, competitive firms earn 0 economic profit. Price equals marginal cost, which equals $10. Quantity is 120 and profit is 0. Next, the monopolist will maximize profits by charging a price of $40, producing 60 units and earning a profit of $1,800. One possible duopoly outcome is collusion. Collusion is an agreement among firms in a market about the quantities to produce or the prices to charge. T-Mobile and Verizon could agree to each produce half of the monopoly output. Each firm would produce 30 units at a price of $40 and earn profits of $900. A cartel is a group of firms acting in unison. In this case, T-Mobile and Verizon have formed a cartel by engaging in collusion. Collusion versus self-interest. Both firms would be better off if both stuck to the cartel agreement. However, each firm has incentive to renege on the agreement. The lesson with collusion is it is difficult for oligopoly firms to form cartels and honor their agreements. Equilibrium for an oligopoly. Nash equilibrium is a situation in which economic participants interacting with one another each choose their best strategy given the strategies that all the other players have chosen. In our duopoly example, the Nash equilibrium occurs when both firms produce 40 units. Given that Verizon produces 40 units, T-Mobile's best move is to produce 40 units. Given T-Mobile produces 40 units, Verizon's best move is to produce 40 units. Let's compare the market outcome of oligopoly to the market outcomes that occur with perfect competition and monopoly. When firms in oligopoly individually choose production to maximize profits, the oligopoly quantity is greater than the monopoly quantity but smaller than the perfectly competitive quantity. The oligopoly price is greater than the perfectly competitive price, but less than the monopoly price. In other words, the oligopoly outcome falls in between the monopoly and competitive outcomes. The price and output effects. Increasing output has two effects on a firm's profit. First, the output effect. If price is greater than marginal cost, selling more output raises profits. Second, the price effect. Raising production increases market quantity, which reduces market price and reduces profit on all units sold. If the output effect is greater than the price effect, the firm will increase production. If the price effect is greater than the output effect, the firm should reduce production. Game theory. Game theory helps us understand oligopoly in other situations where players interact and behave strategically. Dominant strategy is a strategy that is best for a player in a game regardless of the strategies chosen by the other players. Prisoner's Dilemma is a game between two captured criminals that illustrates why cooperation is difficult even when it's mutually beneficial. Prisoner's Dilemma example. The police have caught Bonnie and Clyde, two suspected bank robbers, but only have enough evidence to imprison each for 1 year. The police question each in separate rooms, offer each the following deal. If you confess and implicate your partner, you go free. If you do not confess but your partner implicates you, you get 20 years in prison. If you both confess, each gets 8 years in prison. Let's look at the outcomes on a payoff matrix. Bonnie is in green and Clyde is in yellow. If Clyde confesses, then Bonnie gets 8 years if she confesses, or 20 years if she does not. If Clyde remains silent, Bonnie goes free if she confesses, or gets 1 year if she does not. At this point, it may be worth mentioning that Bonnie's best move is to confess, regardless of Clyde's decision. Hence, confess is Bonnie's dominant strategy. If Bonnie confesses, Clyde gets 8 years if he confesses, or 20 years if he does not. If Bonnie remains silent, Clyde goes free if he confesses, or 1 year if he does not. Regardless of Bonnie's decision, Clyde's best move is to confess. Both players have a dominant strategy of confessing. The outcome. Bonnie and Clyde both confess, each get 8 years in prison, but both would be better off if they remained silent. Even if Bonnie and Clyde had agreed before they got caught to remain silent, the logic of self-interest takes over and leads them to confess. Oligopolies as a prisoner's dilemma. When oligopolies form a cartel in hopes of reaching the monopoly outcome, they become players in a prisoner's dilemma. Our example earlier, T-Mobile and Verizon are duopolists in Smalltown. The cartel outcome maximizes profits. Each firm agrees to serve 30 customers. Here is the payoff matrix for this example. You can take a few minutes to pause the lecture and review the payoffs. You will find that each firm's dominant strategy is to renege on the agreement and produce a quantity of 40. Other examples of the prisoner's dilemma. Ad wars occur when two firms spend millions on TV ads to steal business from each other. Each firm's ads cancels out the effects of the other, and both firms' profits fall by the cost of the ads. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC. Member countries try to act like a cartel. They agree to limit oil production to boost prices and profits, but agreements sometimes break down when individual countries renege. Why people sometimes cooperate. When the game is repeated many times, cooperation may be possible. These strategies may lead to cooperation. If your rival reneges in round 1, you renege in all subsequent rounds. Tit for tat. Whatever your rival does in one round, whether renege or cooperate, you do in the following round. You will get practice on these strategies on your lab assignment. This is the end of the Chapter 14 lecture. If you have any questions about this material, please post a question and ask Professor Pakula or send me an email.